This is the Random Nintendo podcast for September 4th. Assuming that's going to be September. You're going to upload this tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it'll probably be up at like 1 a.m. on September 4th, assuming you get me the audio in time. Yeah.
Damn,
I always get you.
You
the
do
audio
always
on
get
time.
me the audio on time. That was not to imply you
No,
don't.
there's been a couple of times where I get you the audio on time.
Although,
it's usually because it's like super late. I'm like, no, I'll do it later.
although to be fair, we are already late because of the Labor Day weekend. We are recording a day later. So.
Yes, I hope that everybody had a good Labor Day. That voice that you just heard is, as always, in my virtual right is Jason.
Howdy, it is me.
Exactly. To my virtual right is Angel.
What's up?
And I am Kevin, because I don't think I ever introduced myself on these things.
No, actually, I'm usually reminding. I feel like when you guys host, I usually remind you, like, don't forget yourself without saying it. Like, I'm like, and you are. So yeah, there you go. You are Kevin.
True.
There we go.
Angels don't ring a bell. At least when I'm hosting. But yeah.
I'm curious how many people listen to this show and don't know who we are yet. Like, what's the through line of like return?
Curious how many people listen to the show at all.
I know it's at least 3.
Oh man.
I do not listen to this podcast.
Oh, I didn't mean us. I know of 3 people that aren't us. If you add us, it's at least 5 because you don't listen.
Like saying it kind of like a little joke or something.
No. Well, it was sort of, but no. It's 5 if you count us because I know you don't listen, Kevin, but Angel, I know you sometimes do, and occasionally I do. If I'm listening to something else, like a podcast I've really been enjoying lately is the Lonely Islands retrospective podcast about their digital shorts on SNL. And as soon as that ends, my podcast app dumps me into Ram Nintendo. I'm like, whoa, what is this? I don't want to hear this, and I turn it off. But it counts as a listen. So
I'll allow it. Anyways, how was your guys' long weekend?
You don't want to know. Mine's just boring. I didn't do anything.
I mean, Angel and I saw each other in person, but I guess I'm boring and don't count as anything. So that's cool.
It was boring. I didn't do anything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I guess to quickly summarize, yeah, I did hang out with Jason. We did indulge in some. What did we play? We'll talk about it later.
You're going to say like a drug or something. I don't know why. The way you're like, oh, we indulged. It's like we had beer.
I mean, we also had I had one of the pre-made cocktails that the old-fashioned one was good. The one I had this time, the jalapeno pineapple, was not as great, but I think it just needed to be iced really cold. But even then, yeah, I don't know if I like my drinks to taste that strongly of jalapeno. It does a great job of tasting exactly like what it's advertising, but it turns out I don't want that. I love pineapple as a soda, surprisingly. It's actually one of my favorite types of soda ever. For
context, we're talking about pre-bottled cocktails that you can now buy.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
On the Rocks was the brand that Angel started to say good things about and then swerved into not sponsored content territory by dissing. But it was On the Rocks.
Like gushing about pineapple soda?
No, when you were saying, like, I like their old-fashioned, but I don't like their jalapeno pineapple. That was On the Rocks, pre-bottled cocktails. Available.
Well, I guess it was, technically. Well, no, it wasn't, because there were no rocks.
No, but the brand is On the Rocks.
Yeah, so we played some Rose and Camellia, and we had some pizza as well. Don't laugh. And
wait, what did you play? Some Rosalia?
Rose and Camellia.
Rose and Camellia, yeah.
Or Camellia, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
What is Rose and Camellia?
It's imagine Punch Out, but it's all Victorian women, and you're slapping each other instead of punching.
That sounds awesome.
It's an experience. Yeah, it's
kind of Adult Swim coded a little bit, but it's like anime aesthetic. You have a dodge. I mean, should we just jump on it now? Just kind of like
let's just slap it right in here and just talk about it. See, because it's slap fighting. Okay. Cool. Great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I heard about this game. I actually heard about this game randomly through a YouTube short. And that was also just randomly showed Jason just like maybe like 5 videos of what the algorithm thinks I
No,
like.
hold on. Don't soften this. You showed me like 27 video. You just kept going and going and going. I'm not
I
saying
guess
it's a
it
negative.
felt
You showed me a lot of videos, and I now really do understand how you think and act, and it all made sense once the YouTube short algorithm was exposed to me. Yeah.
well because we were
Mhm.
going through them kind of fast. It was like the equivalent of maybe watching like 5 full of them, which would be like 5 minutes, I guess. But either way,
How many episodes of Suits did you show him?
none came
No,
out.
no suits, but you did show me.
Yeah, Two Broke Girls is the
Yeah,
new
Two
one
Broke
that comes
Girls.
out
He
there.
showed me a clip, and he lingered on that clip. He's saying he went through things quickly. No, we watched a full 22 seconds or so of Two Broke Girls, and it had a punchline. Not gonna say if it's funny
Yeah, I
or
think I was
not.
trying to show a
It was just
point.
a punchline.
And I don't understand that show. It's like every character just says their lines very
It's about two
slowly
broke
and
girls.
loudly.
Yeah, Ajo, it's right in the
Oh,
title. It's about two broke girls.
oh, yeah, maybe
What
it
is
is
there?
too.
What is there to understand?
Yeah, it's not a very complex title.
Uh, well, yeah, so we did that, and yeah, that was a fun Saturday evening. Before that, actually, I was yeah the next day. I don't know
Wait,
if
what
you've
happened to
been to a
Rose
place
and
called.
Camellia? Weren't we about to?
I forgot we were gonna start talking
You
about
were
that.
you were like
This
right
time
there,
step
and
on
then you
it.
pulled back on it. Yeah,
Yeah, thanks for slapping some sense into me.
yeah.
So,
Anytime.
oh, that's right, the shorts. So, yeah, I was randomly scrolling through shorts one day, and I just saw it was like a clip of like it looked like a like a teenage girl just like playing some game, at just some game at the time, and she was just like aggressively like just shaking like the Joy-Con like as hard as possible, and just like how into it she was kind of like it seemed like that was like why it was uploaded because it was just kind of funny just how over the top her reaction was to slapping. But I had never seen that game before, and I was just like, "What game is this?" And I'm like, "Is that a Joy-Con? Like, is this actually on Switch?" And I just like Googled like slapping game on Switch, and sure enough, that popped up, and I saw a trailer, and it just looked funny. Like it looked like
And it was way forward
uh,
published, which
yeah, and it
automatically
saw
gives
like
it pedigree.
WayForward's logo, and I'm like, oh, so a studio that I love is like involved in this in some way. And yeah, like the general premise, and this is very general because it basically escalates really quickly. Uh, you are the wife of or I guess the widow of, this man that belonged to a very rich and powerful family. He died, and it's basically Cinderella now. Everyone hates you, and they don't want you involved in the family matters, but you want to prove that you can not only be that you're a part of the family, but that you are like the top, the madame, and you
The
basically slap
Grand
your way to
Madame, I believe.
the grand madame, and you basically slap your way to the top of the totem pole, and it just kind of like escalates from there. Like
But
just looking at the character select screen because there is a versus mode. You can see that at some point you can unlock a fairy. I know there's robots. I know there's like deities involved in this. But in a nutshell, like I said, it is very punch out. Like you have a character in the foreground, you have a character in the background, but both of them, for all intents and purposes, have like the same moves. You take turns doing a slap and a dodge. During your turn with the slap, you could do a fake slap where you don't actually slap. Because as soon as you throw out your slap, your turn ends. Which, ideally you want to land it. If they dodge it, whoever dodged it can actually throw out a counter slap and land a hit during your turn. Which, obviously is really, really bad. So it ends up just being like a mind game. It goes by really fast. It's, very tongue in cheek. More like hand in cheek, I guess. But yeah,
hand to cheek,
it's
yes.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's. I think what's interesting about it is Angel sort of touched on it that they commit to the bit, but like they commit to the bit. I mean, it's fully voice acted. It's all the characters have like really detailed animations, kind of like with Punch Out, where the tell is in the animation. The motion controls are like actually quite elaborate. Like, you press a button and swing forward, that's a slap. You can kind of feign a slap if you like tilt back ever so slightly by pressing a button. You can do the counters, as he said. Like, there's just a lot of thought that went into a game that can be summed up in the sentence Victorian women slapping each other. And it's fully motion controlled, and it's just like, it's the beauty of the eShop is like there's so many games on there that's like you can Mad Lib any game concept. I tweeted something to this effect, but you can Mad Lib any game concept and it exists. So this is the prime example of like, no pun intended, slap together a bunch of random ideas and it somehow actually kind of works and it's funny and it's like it is kind of Adult Swim coded, as Angel put it. Like, it's just never in a million years would I guess this existed. Never in a million years would I guess it had the production value it does. Never in a million years would I guess it would have been as much fun as we had with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I am very much looking forward to playing the single player campaign just to see where it goes. But yeah, one of those random games that you just bought looks interesting and ended up being as fun as you would hoped. And I could see it being like a quick game that we'll throw on for like, a couple rounds like every hangout or something, just because, it's just quick reflexes. It's fun.
It
Anyone
also gets
kind of has a chance at winning.
surprisingly difficult. Like, we were doing the single player, and the final fight of Chapter 2, I mean, I had to leave at that point because we took so long trying to beat it, and I had to get home because it was like almost 2 a.m. But like, we were stuck. Like, it gets difficult. It's a surprising. There's some depth to something that seems so conceptually simple. Yeah.
Yeah, especially in the single player, or at least like your enemy, the NPCs, like they end up like getting extra abilities or like extra ways that they can like attack you. Just kind of like building on that. But yeah, there's nuance. It's like, it's not as simple as, like throwing like a rock, paper, scissors. I mean, it's almost like if you just got rid of all but, I guess, like single button smash. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, it does actually feel more like a real fighting game than like because Punch-Out's kind of a puzzle game almost, but this one, especially in multiplayer, it's scaled down. You only have like 2 or 3 attacks, but it is the mind game of like trying to outthink what move your opponent might do. It's almost like rapid fire chess in a way, like because you're like you can feign, you can slap, you can whatever, and you just try like there's surprisingly strategy to it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that was fun. Looking forward to, because of that, I mean, yeah, I'm just looking forward to just revisiting a lot of these indies. I don't even know if that's considered an indie, maybe a double A, but
no, it's an indie. Well, yeah, actually, that's true. Way Forward's kind of in between these days because they're so big. Yeah.
But yeah, between that, looking forward to playing Pizza Tower. Looking forward to playing Big Boy Boxing when that eventually comes to Switch.
That's
which
more of a
that
true
one
Punch-Out.
literally is a Punch Out, but it just looks like really over the top pixel animation, which just looks really really cool. But yeah, that's pretty much that. At this point, I don't even know if we just go into other stuff or do we just finish our thought. Did you say what you were doing your weekend? I mean, I guess speed run mine. The rest of it was literally just Lorcana. I probably played like 13 hours of Lorcana over the course of 2 days. I did enter a Lorcana tournament and I did win.
Oh,
so
nice.
That too. So I've
Holy crap,
already,
that's awesome.
I've already reached that point. And the only other thing of note, and this might be something that might interest you, or maybe you already know about it, but that day that I entered the tournament in Little Tokyo, I pretty much spent the morning at Little Tokyo. Just like, I went to the cafe, had myself a nice lunch, had myself a bottle of sake, and then I went to this place called Manuela, which is actually by the Salt and Straw. Yeah, the Salt and Straw. That
The ice cream place?
Yeah. It's like a open air. It's like an art gallery that I didn't know was there, but it's also attached to like a bookstore, and then there's like an outdoor garden where you could sit down there, and it's really really pretty, with a chicken coop for some reason, and it also has like an outdoor bar, so I was able to order a drink, and I just worked on some drawing, just like practicing my perspective while in that garden, and it was very chill, very quiet, very
Sounds
nice.
very zen.
Lots of shade. It was peaceful, and yeah. So if you ever hit chilling in the arts district, I would definitely check out that Manuela or that art gallery, for that matter. But yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, that's all I got.
Nice. I didn't do jack. I had work Saturday, Sunday, and then yesterday I pretty much just spent it all in bed, nursing a hangover.
I this weekend was a
So
little.
that was
You
my
must have
weekend.
had a crazy night, right?
I don't know if crazy is the right word. I think I was reading manga. It's all blur.
Sounds wild to me.
I heard you Elvis and Co are like artists now. He showed me this like metal song that was the most hilarious thing, and this like country
What?
song.
I'm
But
sorry.
yeah,
I
What?
have no idea what you guys might be referring to.
huh? I'll have to show you later then. But
Kevin
anywho,
secretly has a
um,
music career. Intriguing.
apparently,
Under
That
an alter.
apparently
Is this
only
like?
happens when I'm drunk.
Is this like
'cause
Parks and Rec
I
where
don't. I
like?
have no recollection of this.
As I say, is this like Parks and Rec where it's Oh, sorry, my computer chimed. As I say, is it like Parks and Rec where Ron Swanson secretly has this like jazz career? Are you Ron Swanson with a jazz, but with a metal career?
Duke Silver.
Yeah. Are you Duke Silver?
I wouldn't believe that you would be a country singer, Jason.
Me?
You would actually, yeah, like a secret.
No, I don't like country that much. Even though country's having its renaissance right now, I'm good.
Speaking of country, hold that thought. I will be right back. Need to take care of something.
Speaking of country, hold that thought.
Speaking of country, hold that thought. Hold on. What? Well, I could talk about something that's like country adjacent while Angel's gone. I saw Twisters in 4DX. That the whole soundtrack is country music. I could do that since he just ran away.
Sure.
What's the last 4DX movie you saw, Kevin?
I know
you've seen some.
It was Endgame,
Endgame,
which is the
okay.
only
How did you
40X movie.
only 4DX
Yeah.
you've seen? So I've seen 2 up to this point. I saw the Mario movie, which was my first 4DX experience. And I saw Transformers, like the one with the last live action one, which was fine.
Rise of the
But
Beasts.
let me tell you, yeah, Rise of the Beast.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, but let me tell you, Twisters is made for 4DX, or 4DX is made for Twisters. I'm not sure which, but like the whole thing with 4DX is the seats rock and roll and move, and they spritz you with water, and there's like lightning style lighting effects, and there's fog machines. And when you're watching a movie that's about thrashing you around and spritzing and throwing water at you and wind and fog, like dust clouds and lightning, it syncs up extremely, extremely well. Like I don't think there's gonna be a better 4DX experience I ever have. It like. Yeah, like this, you get close to a tornado, your seats start going kind of whirling, and they pump some smoke. You're further back, and they can make the breeze that when the wind shift that you feel. Like it was really, really good, and it was also really, really violent. Like I know the seats have jolted around for Mario, but like this was like the whole climax of this movie was just rocking. Like it was non-stop, and it there's a homage to the original Twister in this one where part of it takes place in a movie theater. The original had a drive-in. And it was very meta to be rocking around in this hydraulic-based chair, flying every which way while watching a movie where a bunch of people are being rocked around in between movie theater chairs with a tornado visible through like a hole in the wall in the theater in the movie, and you're watching a hole in the wall that's showing you the movie, essentially, the screen. So it's very meta. But
Can you imagine that it was you in there?
What? That I was in the tornado?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I felt kind of funny about it because, like, everyone's, laughing and hollering, but there's, like, it's a tornado. It, like, kills people. And everyone's like, oh, this is so fun. And I'm like, it's so weird because, like, tornadoes actually aren't. But it was really fun, and I don't want to ever be in a real tornado. I'll tell you that. But it was, it was definitely an experience. Like, it felt like the perfect marriage of, like, this ridiculous movie concept and this movie viewing concept and like a disaster movie. Like I don't think there's anything that can match it. But I mean, and honestly, I don't even know if the movie was that good without it. It was like a pretty basic by the numbers, action disaster movie with like a romance subplot of sorts, kind of. But just something like even in like the smaller moments, like you're just bracing for the next time that is it safe to take a drink? Is it gonna go flying out of your cup holder because the seat's gonna like take off? Like it's you're kind of on edge the whole time, not for the reason they want you to be, but you're on edge because of the theater, and it made for a really fun experience. What was Endgame like when you saw it? Because
miserable. Because
did they just shake a lot?
Miserable.
Oh, was it?
Because actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I've seen 2 movies in 40X. Endgame, which I think was my first one, and what's it called? I keep forgetting. Like, well, which one was it? It was
What was it about? Who was in it?
it's
I
a
can maybe help
superhero
you.
movie. James Gunn, not Guardians 3, The Suicide Squad. There we go.
Oh, Suicide Squad. Okay.
Yeah, the Suicide Squad. I saw in 40X. I forgot which one it was, but one of them I had the most miserable experience because, you know how there's one of the things is like it'll spit wind at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a couple chairs in the front that were broken, so the wind would hiss and it would not stop, even though everything else has stopped.
Oh no,
And
that's annoying.
it was like at least like 2 minutes until they finally shut the hell up. But every single time that they would throw wind at your face, those couple of seats in the front would still like hiss for an extra 2 minutes. It was terrible.
That
I
sucks.
do not ever think I will go see a movie in 40X. I just do not have fun with it. I have never been a fan of like gimmicky stuff like that. Like,
Sure.
I famously never used the 3D on my 3DS just because like
Right.
I'm just not a fan of gimmicks.
Yeah, I will say that like Mario, I wanted to do it because I was on a mission and remain on this mission to see Mario in as many different ways possible.
Sure.
Never see it the same way twice.
Sure.
Transformers, I think we had free tickets, so we're like, screw it, let's do it, and it was fine. But I had no like real drive to see anything in 40X again. But then there's some like rumblings that Twisters in 40X is like more of a theme park ride and less of a gimmick because it fits the movie so well. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it was selling out like crazy. We ended up going to a 10 a.m. showing that was mostly full, just because all the others were sold out across all of Labor Day weekend.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I get it for certain movies, like for Twisters, it makes a lot of sense just because it does sync up so well. And credit to the 40X people, it is a gimmick, sure, but I read up on this. They spend like 2 weeks mapping movies to the motion, and there is like it's not all or nothing. There's subtlety. There's like granularity to the motions. There's whenever a car door slams, your seat does a tiny little jolt on the side the car door was slammed on. When there's
no gunshots.
they've had stuff like if not gunshot. Well, they didn't have gunshots in Twisters and Welcome Back, but they had like stuff going flying or debris or like mud flaps kicking up dirt, and they had like the things in the Indiana Jones and Mummy ride where it kind of tickles your feet with those flaps. They had those. They had like. If there was something flaps open, they do like a little air cannon in your ear. There's a little thing on the back in the middle that could kind of punch you a little for a certain feel. So it wasn't just like you're thrashed around willy nilly. There was some like thought put into the thrashing, which made it really sync up well with a movie where different wind speeds and different types of debris coming from different directions do have different impacts and different feels. So it worked really well. I have no intention of necessarily seeing anything else in 40X, but Twisters was surprisingly. I saw articles online that were like, it's a religious experience, and I don't know if I'd go that far, but it was definitely like, I can't imagine seeing Twisters in just like a normal TV or a normal movie theater. Like it really enhanced the experience. It was kind of.
So do you think that so how about this? Would you recommend the movie? And I'm not in
40X, yes, not in 40X. I think if you're looking for kind of a generic popcorn flick, it's not bad. Glenn Powell in general just has a lot of charisma and everything he's in, and that was true here too. So
yeah,
like,
that dude
why
has
not?
charm up the wazoo.
Yeah.
Did you say Gwyneth Paltrow?
Sure. No, Gwen. Now you got me saying Gwen. Glenn Powell, the new Hollywood Ip Man name. I don't know where he came from, but he was pretty good in it. You can get a peek at the next Superman. He's in it as a side character. David Cronenberg or whatever his name is.
That's the famous.
So yeah, it's a fine popcorn flick. I wouldn't say it's anything special unless you do it in 40X, and then suddenly it's like truly an experience, and I would recommend that. And they actually retroactively have now encoded the original Twister in 40X and put that out, and they're doing double features of the two if you really want to just like blow out your back, or you could just do both back to back.
We find our episode title, folks.
Blow out your back. But it definitely was it was definitely an experience. So if you have a 40X here, I think there's like 30 of them around the country. If you happen to have one near you, I would say, unless you really hate 40X, this is the one that it's made for. They were waiting. The Korean people who made this were waiting for a Twister sequel to arrive, and it got there, and it's perfect.
Wait, why? Wait, say that again?
The Korean people who made 40X, it's a Korean company. We're waiting for a movie like Twister to come around. Yeah, all the 4DX stuff is encoded and put together in Korea, and then they ship it on back to the theaters here in the U.S. It's a Korean company, apparently, if I'm understanding correctly. Yeah, it's actually like it's quite the international thing. Yeah, I realized if you didn't know that, that was really weird for me to just like shout out Korean people, but
also because I think the director is Korean.
Oh yeah, that's actually true. I think he might be. Yeah. So
yeah, he was the director of Minari.
Wow, Jason.
Which was that Stephen Yeun movie.
Right. But yeah, so that's my brush with country music, Angel. To bring it back to you mentioning country. But I did, if we're talking about weekend things, this was a weekend ago, I did have a rock experience. Oh, rock, because it rocked me in the movie.
You're a little bit of country and a little bit of rock?
Yeah, so my little bit of country was Twisters, and my little bit of rock was I saw the Killers. There's not a whole lot to say about this one, but I saw the Killers. They're doing a 20th anniversary of their first album, Hot Fuss, 10-day, 14-day residency in Vegas at Caesar's Palace. We were lucky enough to get tickets. We went a week ago, and man, I realized when I was sitting there, oh, we're like old now because we're at the age where the bands we listened to in high school are doing anniversary residencies in Vegas. But that said, it was a very cool show. It was very Vegas-y. The Killers loved them some Vegas. It's their hometown. Lots of neon, lots of bright lights, literally a song called Bright Lights. But they did Hot Fuss from start to finish, including the bonus track that was out, I think, in Europe originally. And then they came back and did like a whole, 7 or 8 additional songs on top of that, like a big encore of just other hits. And it was really cool. Like it was the full original configuration of the band. Some of them don't tour anymore. I think only 2 of them are still like actively touring, and the other 2 kind of stepped back.
Brandon
all 4
and
of them.
Mark.
The drummer.
Mark. Ronnie.
Whoever his last
Starts
name
with a V?
is. His Italian. I think he has like an Italian
Ronnie
sound.
Rousey.
No, not Ronda Rousey, no. But it was a very good show. So that was my rock to go with my country. My country rock since the last time we spoke.
If they ever do one for Sam's Town, I would probably want to go to that one.
Did you know, actually, if you go to Sam's Town, like the actual casino in Vegas, which is about 30 minutes from the Strip, they have Killers branded $5 poker chips you can buy?
Oh, wow, really? It wasn't one of the most recent times. I think I was probably still in high school. I had my parents take a detour as we were leaving so that we could check out Sam's Town.
I've never actually been.
It was just from the outside.
You would think the trip where I go specifically to see the Killers do a residency would be the trip I go to Sam's Town, but nope. Didn't go to Sam's Town. Did go, actually, cool thing in Vegas, if you're into like kind of the glitz of Vegas, there's a museum called the Neon Museum, which paired very well with a neon-soaked Killers concert. But there's a museum called the Neon Museum. It's right near downtown Vegas, like Fremont Street, maybe 5-minute drive from there. A bunch of old casinos, a bunch of old resorts, a bunch of old restaurants. They just gave their old kind of now decrepit neon signs to this museum, and they have what they call the Neon Junkyard or Boneyard, and it's just stacks, like layers of just vintage signage, vintage letters from signs, like that Killers K they always have on stage when they perform, like the kind of lip. There's just like a bunch of random letters like that just scattered around this place. There's like signs from the Stardust. There's like the old hard rock neon guitar. It's really cool. It has a really interesting aesthetic because it's just like this dirt loop you walk in, and some of the signs are plugged in and some of them aren't because they don't, there's like so many outlets at this place, and it's just like stacks of just neon, like old vintage stuff just piled on top of one another. And you're going to spend maybe 20, 30 minutes there. It's not that big of a collection that you can actually see because it's so stacked. But it's a really cool, like, little quick glance through Vegas. They have, like, this old, like, Elvis statue of him playing pool. I think it was Elvis of him playing pool. It's just, like, this weird hodgepodge of, like, classic Vegas. Some modern stuff, like the Mirage sign is going to go there. The Palms has a sign there. But it's just, like, a really cool, like, little walk down, like, Vegas history. So if you're ever there for the Killers and you want to get in on the neon thing and you want to get in on Sam's Town, there's a whole trip for you right there. A Killers vacation.
Sweet. I have not loved the Killers in...
I know.
Oh, boy. Yeah, one day...
Yeah,
one day something will something will reignite my love for the Killers at some point.
I will say what was cool about the concert is like because it was so
Not a fan
focused
of
on
Reptilia.
That is
no,
not the
that's
Killer. I
the
don't know how many times
Strokes.
we.
How dare my God, Angel.
You know how many times we have to go over this.
But no, the nice thing about the concert is it did lean very heavily, obviously, on the 20th anniversary of Hot Fuss. So it was all the first album, start to finish, top to bottom. They had unique visuals for each song. When they did the bonus songs, it was like, that was more probably where you would fall out of favor because it was more, they had Caution, they had The Man, they had stuff from more, they had Runaways, like they did stuff from more recent albums. So the whole show concludes with When You Were Young. So that
Imploding the Mirage is fine. I'm okay with Imploding the Mirage.
Yeah, I that's the one I've liked most of recent times. Yeah.
Yeah, and by okay, that's like a 6 out of 10 for me. Maybe even a 5. But I'm fine with it.
Rachel and I listened to it a lot the summer of the pandemic, so it's higher just for the nostalgia of it. But yeah, no, it's not as strong as the early stuff. But I will say that concert turned me around on some of Battleborn. Battleborn to me was their weakest album. They were kind of doing like old school anthem rock sort of with that album, like kind of extra Bruce Springsteen-y at times. And it did, whatever. But like the song Runaways, the song Flesh and Bone, those grew on me because they played Runaways at the show.
Flesh and Bone is perfect song.
Yeah. So I never really gave Battleborn a fair shake until after this concert because they did play a song or two, and I was like, all right, I'll take a few of the singles, sure. So those are in my library now as well.
Cool.
But yeah, so yeah, that's Jason's country and rock adventures.
Jason,
we need to have some metal in there someday.
Well, aren't you seeing Metallica in the not too distant future, or not Metallica? Iron Maiden. You're seeing some metal, something. Are you not?
It's possible.
That means he is. That's code, everyone. He doesn't want he doesn't want to dox himself and reveal what concert he'll be at, so he doesn't get swarmed by all the random Nintendo fans. I get it. I totally get it. As we established, there are 5 fans, and they could swarm you.
Are they considered metal?
Who?
Iron Maiden? Or Metallica? I would say Iron Maiden's like more classic metal, but more like old school metal-ish. Hard rock, maybe?
They're this weird spot in between like hard rock and classic metal. Yeah, I guess I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, they do power chords.
Yeah, they're a version of metal for sure, but they're definitely way more.
They're way more chill than like a Metallica. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
What I'm looking for. Like the vocals specifically are like very. I was gonna say melodramatic,
understandable,
but
not grunty.
Yeah, it's a much more like vocal. Oh man, this is what we're looking for because obviously harmonic,
or melodic, maybe.
Melodic, yeah, but in the sense that I feel like they're hitting a bunch of different ranges instead of like angry.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah.
It's
a very orchestral or classically inspired band for sure. But anyway, that sounds pretty cool though. Your recent experience. If we're looking forward to hearing what other concerts you go to. Or the next time you go back to.
There's a cool one coming up. I think I could say it. I'm under NDA. I'm going to Linkin Park's Reformation debut performance. By the time most people hear it, it already happened. But more to come next episode. I'll tell you all about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, besides Iron Maiden, I do have a Hyde concert in November at some point. That's about it. I think that's it right now.
I'm trying to think if I have any shows lined up. I don't think I do.
You have nothing?
Is there anything coming up at your stadium? Because I've been wanting an excuse to visit for the arcade.
Nothing that necessarily. Yeah, there's absolutely zero.
I guess any soccer game is.
Yeah,
could be just.
Yeah.
Huh.
But then that's only like
coming up. Are they on our off season right now?
No, they're still in the middle of the season.
Oh, interesting.
This is revealing a little bit more than I want to about myself.
Oh, gotcha.
The irony that I was saying Angel didn't want to get doxxed by saying what concert he's going to, and then Angel's like, so tell me all about where you work and your social security number and your checking routing number, please.
I didn't say you worked there. I just said your stadium. That could be interpreted however you want. I know.
He owns a stadium. Everyone, it's true. Kevin actually is a billionaire. and he owns most of the sports venues.
Yeah,
in Los Angeles, California.
I just recently opened up into a dome. That was a project and a half that took a lot of my. Steve Ballmer had nothing to do with it. It was all me.
Yeah, he's your stadium beard, if you will.
Yeah, he's what's that? Damn it! What am I thinking of? Steve Ballmer's just my front.
Yeah. He's the you're the man behind the curtain. And
yeah, I'm the Batman. He's the Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, it sucks, Kevin, that when you opened Intuit Dome, you had those ticket problems that first night. Because I don't know why you chose, Kevin, to have your own app for your own stadium.
When I heard that they were not going to have a box office, I was like, oh my God, good luck with that. Because the box office is probably one of the most important aspects of any stadium, and to not have one is insane.
Never mind that, but I mean, obviously, yeah, but also like to think, yes, okay, Steve Ballmer was a big guy at Microsoft, but to be like, there's all these established ticketing platforms that have worked out the kinks and work at scale. What if we scrap all that and make our own Intuit Dome ticketing platform? Like, why would you do that? Like, what? Why? Like why spend the money and the time?
There is a reason,
why?
right? One, they want your biometrics. Like the fact you were able to scan your face and use your face as a ticket.
Oh, that's trippy. I don't know how I feel about that. That's
we
cool,
do it,
but also
we do it
like a little bit.
We do it at our stadium.
Really?
I don't know how many people use it, but we definitely use it at our stadium.
Huh. Interesting.
Like it's really weird. But yeah, and that's also optional. It's they're obviously not forcing you to use your face, but
yet.
Yeah, no, box office is wild.
Yeah. Yeah, and for those who don't know what we're talking about, it made news on the night it happened, but basically Bruno Mars did the kickoff concert for the new Intuit Dome venue here in LA, the new Clippers home stadium, which actually looks like a very nice stadium. And none of the tickets worked. No one could get in. They had to delay the show like 90 minutes or something because like no one could get in because the system went down completely or something like that. Right, Kevin?
I went down for a bit. There early, that would be very unfortunate.
Yeah, I think a few people trickled in early before like the critical mass of people, but it was like, yeah, not the best open. They've ironed it out since. It's been a few weeks, but like, whoa, that's rough.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I haven't been doing anything the last couple of weeks except I've just been back on my BS.
Okay.
My
Does
BS
that mean live service games?
It means live service games. I'm going to update you all. This is my new segment, Gomi's Live Service Update Corner. It's a spin-off of Jason Sales Corner.
With double the words in the title, which is great.
Double the words, definitely not going to be as long as Jason Sales Corner can typically
Nothing can be.
Nothing can be.
Yeah. if you match me, I would be shocked.
I want to start off with the new season of Marvel Snap, which actually started today. It is Symbiote Spider-Man season. They've had a Spider-Man season before. I think Miles Morales was the card that was introduced that season.
Didn't they also have a Venom season before as well?
No,
that was definitely.
I think this is one and the same.
He was a Venom was probably a variant that they was like it
wasn't
in the battle pass.
Null. That wasn't when they released Null.
I don't remember when they released Null.
Because I remember when I was playing, there was definitely like a Venom themed season.
Which yeah, it's probably Null. Null was probably the card. But no, this season is specifically about. Wait, is this? No, so there's actually two Spider-Man seasons. There's this season that we're in right now, and then there's going to be one when Venom 3 comes out. I don't.
The Last Dance.
Marvel's dominate, blah blah blah.
Venom 3 is a thing.
Hey, question while you're thinking about Venom 3. Why are Venom 3 and Joker 2 coming out weeks apart and both of them are like musical named? I mean, one's a literal musical, but like The Last Dance and Folie à Deux and both like kind of have like a music. Is it like a Bug's Life and Ants? Did someone steal an idea from someone else?
But isn't The Last Dance also kind of used for something that's not always a dance?
I just mean it's kind of weird that one's a musical and one's like doing a title that sounds like a musical. And they come out literally 2 weeks apart. 3 weeks apart.
You know what happens when you force it in, Jason?
Elaborate, please.
Anyways, this is the third. This is the third Spider Person season. This one is specifically the Amazing Spider-Man, which is weird. They released a new card called Symbiote Spider-Man, and this kind of goes back to what we talked about when we were talking about Lorcana, where like they didn't add another Peter Parker. They just made Black Suit Spider-Man its own card. What's interesting is that this card and this season overall is now introducing a brand new mechanic, Angel, called Activate.
Whoa.
It's essentially an on-reveal card that you can activate once you set it down. And you can only activate it once.
It would just be active on the field and you just tap it on the turn.
Essentially, which apparently...
one turn later.
Yeah, one turn later. It has to remain on the board for one turn. Which I think our buddy Matt told me that there's already something like this in Hearthstone.
The closest thing I could think of off the top of my head, because this came after I stopped playing, is something called Locations, where you just because Lorcana also recently got Locations, but you basically play a card that's like the graveyard, and that turn or whenever you want, essentially, you could tap it during your turn, and let's say the graveyard just summons a giant zombie, and then it goes dormant for like 2 turns, and you have to wait for it to go undormant before you can like use it again. But basically, once it's active, you could choose to activate it, you could choose to leave it alone. Pretty much when you're ready to use it, that's when you just tap it and use it, and then it goes dormant. And it has like a X number of charges, so you can use it 2 or 3 times, so it's not like super broken.
Gotcha.
I think that's the only one I could think of off the top of my head. Otherwise, it's just your reveal effect. That's like the typical Hearthstone card. It's the battle cry,
Okay.
which I think is reveal.
Yeah. Like I said, activates essentially act as on reveal cards, but just delayed. And you can only activate them once. The season pass card is Symbiote Spider-Man, where Spider-Man will merge with your lowest cost card in that location. And then it will essentially trigger that card's text. So, for instance, let's say Black Panther, he's when you play him, he doubles his power. If you combine him with Symbiote Spider-Man, you'll combine your power, right? So he's already an 8 power, and
he's 8. Oh wow.
Well, he's 4, but he doubles. He's a non-reveal. So yeah. So let's say you get a Symbiote Spider-Man that's like a 9 cost. Now you're going to do what? 9 plus 8, that's 17, and you double it for a 34 power. Pretty cool. And I've already seen some people try to use it against me with Thanos, where they play him early, and then they'll combine him with Spider-Man. It's annoying, but I'm pretty good at this game now, so don't have to worry about that. Apparently, there's another new card that's going to be added later on called Araña, which is what's her face from that god-awful Madam Web movie that we saw a while ago.
Oh, really?
Was also integrating Madam Web.
Yeah. Speaking of, Madam Web is also a card, and it's her old lady form. And there's a variant that looks a lot like they're trying to make her young to look like Dakota Johnson. So,
to Marvel's credit, as much as we didn't like Madam Web, as much as people make fun of Madam Web, it is a cultural touchstone at the moment. Everyone knows Madam Web, so I get it. I get why they would draw the connection.
They took my spiders. Where are my spiders? Oh, Jesus Christ.
Ezekiel, the long-lost PS1 boss.
I completely forgot what his name was. Anyways.
I don't know why I remember it. I'm sort of disturbed I know this.
Name?
I don't know. You know why? I just started watching The Boys, and there's
Did you
Ezekiel
rewatch it?
No, I just started watching The Boys, and when Ezekiel popped up in The Boys, I'm like 5 episodes in, I thought, I know that name, and I realized it's from Madam Web.
I don't even remember anyone named Ezekiel in The Boys.
Mr. Fantastic, The Boys version of Mr. Fantastic. Stretchy arms.
Oh,
Jesus.
That still took me a while to get. Yeah, I know who you're talking about now.
Believe Expo. Yeah. He's hosting Believe Expo. That's where I am in the series. Very early.
How are you liking it?
I like it a lot. Yeah,
Nice.
I know you guys recommended it for a long time, but it took me a while, but I got there. Hey, I
just
get
feels
there.
like
I get there. I get
like,
there.
not to bring back Rose and Camellia, but like it just keeps feeling like a slap in the face. Like I
I got
recommend stuff
there,
to
but I
you
got there.
genuinely, and you
I
literally
s-
just slap me in the face and spit on me
but
and go like, your opinion means nothing. And then random person like jump scares you, go watch the boys, and you're like, okay, sir, and then you watch it, and you're like, oh, I love this.
I'm the one that suggested watching the boys to who I'm watching it with,
Actually,
the
that
group
sounds
I'm
like your
watching
life
it
was in
with,
danger,
because
and
of
I would
your
understand.
You
if you
make
watched
it
it.
sound like someone pulled a
So
gun
it'd
on
be
me. Watch the
like if
boys.
someone you could care even less about, like random old friend from Facebook that you don't even remember friending, just randomly goes watch the boys,
But
and
so I'm the
yeah,
one that suggested we watch the boys because it was spoken highly of by the two of you, and I was just waiting for the right opportunity to watch it. For what it's worth, I value your opinions greatly. I'm like, when you take a survey on a website, it's like, we really value your opinion. Please take a few minutes. That's how I feel whenever you guys tell me things. I really value your opinion, and I'm glad you take those few minutes to tell me. And then I sit on it for 2 years and then finally act.
that's
But it
fair.
needs time to marinate and gestate, and you can't like it's like wine or whiskey. Like, it gets better with age. The recommendation gets better with age.
At least
Yeah,
like you'll be
I'll buy
ready
it.
for season 5.
You don't think I'll be ready for season 5?
No,
Is that what you said?
no, I said at least you'll be ready for season 5.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. And I know season 4 kind of zigs and zags in quality.
I liked it.
You did? Okay, I know the internet. I know we talked about it on this very podcast how the internet was very not into it, but glad you liked it, because I, again, value your opinion and will sit on that nugget of information from you for 2 years until I get to it.
Yeah, and we said it kind of needed to be what it is because it was just setting up, setup season.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Fair.
So that
Anyway,
was
sorry,
Snap.
you
yeah.
were talking about
Actually,
Mad Web and Snap.
I guess the only thing I'll just like add really quick is I actually do appreciate and respect watching something when you're just ready for it. Sometimes like I get recommendations all the time to watch certain things. Sometimes if they get me at a good time, I will just make that the next priority. But other times, even and as I know to some people like it doesn't make sense, but sometimes like if too many people are recommending the same thing, or if someone is just really, really hyping up a certain show, it makes me not want to watch it until like it just kind of dies down.
Until it
And
gets
then
sliced
eventually,
up into YouTube Shorts.
yeah, so it gets passed up to YouTube Shorts. But like, case in point, like there was just so much talk and hype around Spider-Man. That wasn't the main reason, but it like kind of helped with me like being like, oh, I'll watch it when I watch it. Like I just wasn't in a hurry to watch it. Across the Spider-Verse, that is. I think that's probably one of the ones that people were actively like told me like, well, I'm surprised you haven't seen it yet.
I've
Wait,
literally
which
told
movie?
that to
Told me that
you.
lots of
He didn't
Across
see
the
Across the
Spider-Verse?
Spider-Verse for a long time. Have you seen it yet?
I think I watched. Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course
Yeah,
I've seen
okay.
it. I saw it in theaters, but it was like towards the end of the theater run, and yeah, like I loved it. I bought the Blu-ray, but it was like, yeah, like I just wasn't in the mood, or just wasn't ready to watch it.
I think for
And
me it's
kind of like Inception too. Like yeah, part of it was committing to the shtick, which, I commit to the shtick. It was like almost a decade of not watching a
yeah, the
movie just so I
shtick
could
for
like bag on it.
those not in real life with us was Angel basically said Christopher Nolan sucks and everything Christopher Nolan makes is the worst, and would just, anytime someone said Inception, he'd just start dissing it, but he never watched it for like literally a
Which
decade.
I'm still not completely against, but uh, but yeah, like I eventually watched it like over 10 years later, and I loved it. And I don't think I would have appreciated it as much as I did as when I did eventually watch it, because there was no one talking about it. It was just me and the movie. It was nice and quiet. And yeah, sometimes you just need to watch something at a later point. I
I
do add everything to a list that I do. Actually, I do get to them. It'll just take forever. Like I think the only other recent example I could think of is a lot of people recommending Kaiju number 8 to me, because they're like, oh, you like Godzilla, you like anime, you like action and comedy. I think you'd like this, and I probably would, but I'll get it around to it. Just not really in a yeah. Just I don't know. I can't even say like in a watching that kind of anime mood because haven't seen it. I just don't feel motivated to right now. But it is on the list. That's all I'll say. I'm done.
I will say, Kevin, your Kevin's live service update corner, whatever, might rival Jason's sales corner, but not due to anything you specifically did. We just keep talking over you.
It's all right.
Oh, that's right. That's what we were doing.
Wait, what? The sales that we were doing?
Kevin's microtransaction sales corner.
Exactly. Yep.
Kevin's in-app purchase powwow.
Listen, I don't spend that much money. I spend a lot of money. Okay. Anyways,
yeah, I was gonna say
next
that's
game.
vague, but okay, good. Yeah.
Valorant. Back on my Valorant grind. Oh boy, they just released a brand new character that I still haven't unlocked. Because now you have to unlock the characters through some weird arbitrary means. So I can't really speak to Valorant until I unlock that character, but it's still frustrating. I still curse people out. I still get timed out for cursing people out. It's
like for real? You do? Wow.
Oh yeah. I
got timed out.
But they're just children.
Oh no, these are not children. These are grown-ass adults like me.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why Nintendo's not a fan of voice chat. Right here is the example. Granted, it's not a Nintendo game, but proves
what do you mean? Like anybody that plays a Nintendo game is over 30. Calm down.
That's what that's what I'm saying. Anyway, yeah.
And then second to last, Valve released a brand new game called Deadlock. It is a third-person shooter MOBA, which to this audience, they'll know only one MOBA. I don't know. Did you guys ever play Pokemon Rumble?
I did for Unite. It was Pokemon Unite. It's still going strong. I'm still not going strong in it, but the game's still going. But I played it for like a month or so, on and off.
Okay, yeah. So this now imagine
I played it for almost a year on and off, and then I just dropped it.
Yeah,
but it was fun.
Imagine
if they had Bidoof,
Pikachu,
I'm back in. I'm just saying.
Imagine Pikachu with a gun. That is essentially Deadlock.
Power World. So it's Power World.
It's
Yeah,
Power
no, I know what you
World
mean.
mixed
I know
with
what you
Pokemon Unite.
Gotcha.
I'm having a lot of fun with it. MOBAs aren't really my thing. The one that I got close to enjoying was the one by Blizzard, Heroes of the Storm. That one I found to be enjoyable, but still not my like cup of tea. Like Dota and League of Legends are such big investments of time. Not only that, but their communities are also just as terrible as Valorant's community. But there was another one that was called Smite that I really enjoyed.
That was on Switch.
The one with Ninja Turtles in it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that
crossovers,
one.
Yeah.
And that one it wasn't a third-person shooter. You were playing not religious figures, but like Thor was one of the characters in Smite. You're playing like gods.
Pantheons or
Was it more like a magic thing than a gun thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Like spells and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like Japanese gods and Norse gods and Roman gods and stuff like that.
And Ninja Turtles and Transformers were in there too.
I mean, they are part of the same pantheon of godlike figures as Thor.
Yeah, and so like,
especially you, Angel, I'm sure Ninja Turtles are like gods.
Yeah,
yet I didn't play that game.
That game I really enjoyed because something that I sort of learned with like MOBAs is I really hate having to click where I want my character to move. Excuse me. I like having more direct control, and so with Smite, with WASD, I was able to move my character. I never understood why, like, League of Legends or Heroes of the Storm just didn't have an option for you to move your character around like that. Sort of like a twin-stick shooter kind of vibe, but whatever. I was really into Smite for like maybe a couple of months. But now this Deadlock game, I am like seriously addicted. I am. As soon as this is over, like I'm going to try and speed run through editing this episode because I want to just get into Deadlock.
So, question to drag out your time going back to Deadlock. Were you playing Deadlock when you weren't allowed to talk about Deadlock, or did you only start playing it post?
I played it maybe 2 days after I went public.
Okay,
but
so
Deadlock was
caught
like this
up in
open
that
secret.
whole-
Like
It was such a yeah. Like, I get it. It was a good word of mouth building, but the way that some people came at The Verge.
Oh my
for doing
God.
an article.
I don't even want to start with that.
Angel, do you know what we're talking about? Did you hear about this real quick?
No.
Basically, there's like a non-binding, hey, if you're going to play Deadlock, don't talk about Deadlock. Like, you just click a box. It's like, hey, like, you agree these are the terms to Deadlock, have fun. And then The Verge was like, well, there's not an NDA, so we're going to go ahead and talk about Deadlock. And then they lost access to playing Deadlock.
And people were furious.
Sure. And people were so mad at The Verge. How dare they break this not actual contract about this not actual thing? And it's like both parties did their, like, The Verge was like, we'll talk about it. It's fine. We can lose access. And Valve was like, okay, you talked about it. You're losing access. And that was it. Both parties worked within the confines of the agreement. It was fine.
People like, how dare, like, do you not have any journalistic integrity? Like, what do you mean?
These developers worked so long on this game for you to just
this open secret
write about it and
Jesus
promote
Christ.
it. Like, what? They actively, you can go on someone's Steam profile and it would show playing Deadlock. It wasn't a secret in that sense. There was no embargo. There was no NDA. It wasn't something that wasn't publicly known already. It was already in the public sphere. Like, it was fine. And it was like a 2-day, 3-day, 4-day long brouhaha among the gamers against the
only for the game to go like public, maybe a week
like
after?
the next week.
Yeah.
Like, and like Valve didn't care. Like, if Valve cared, they'd care. But they were just like, all right, well, we said don't talk about it, so you won't have access. But it's fine. It's free publicity of a game that already was in the hands of the public. It's fine. It's not like it's not like the GTA 6 leak. Like, that I understand why. Like, there'd be some, like, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Deadlock, more than fine though. I love it. I'm having such a great time with it. Like I said, I can't wait to finish editing this episode so I can go back to it.
Do you think Valve has, not to keep drawing this out on you, do you think Valve has their next big hit here? Like, do you think it's going to be huge for them based on what you played?
I don't know. The only way to play the game right now is to get invited to it.
Right.
And like anybody who I would invite has already been invited to it. And like, it hasn't hooked a lot of our friends. Like, the only one that is just as hooked on it as I am is Matthew.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So out of the group, like 2 out of 5.
2 out of like 5. Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right. Well,
like
it's definitely a more competitive market now than it was the last times that Valve would just show up with this crazy new game of whatever it was at the time. So I could see how it'd be harder to dig in.
Well, yeah, like the last time that they released a game, it was Artifact, and that game failed miserably.
Yeah. And as we saw today, it's really hard, especially if you're a service game. It's really hard. If you don't get your initial footing right away, you're screwed. You're done.
Concord is shutting down in 3 days. Or
after being out for 10 days.
2 based on when we released this episode. Yeah, this was a game that was destined to fail.
Yeah.
This game had a DOA written all over it. How
even
Sony didn't see this is insane.
Dead or Alive? The fighting game?
Dead on Arrival.
Yes, it had jiggle physics all over it, this game. No, it was... I mean, even the way Sony revealed it, like, they just kind of dumped it in a random PlayStation showcase, and they're like, here's this game, it's coming out in 8 weeks, you better be excited. Here's, like, all these different merch you can get for it. Also, we're doing a TV show about it. Like, it's like, what? This whole new IP? That's a lot to commit right off the bat.
It was so weird because, it was in that showcase during, like, E3
June,
week
right?
or
end of May, technically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was in that showcase, and that was the first time that they were showing off anything for it. It was revealed
After 8
of the
years
year
of development.
Well, hold on. The whole 8 years thing, you kind of have to have an asterisk on it because when was it in full development? You know?
Oh, true. Yeah, 8 years of ideation.
Like, it could have been like the concept stage and stuff, but like that could have taken 2 years, and pre-production.
The gestation period of the kernel of the idea till now is 8 years, but you're right. The active development had to have been shorter than that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, like when they first revealed this, I think it might have been 1 or 2 years ago, and literally all it was just the Concord logo. And then they bring it out this year in that showcase, and they're like, "Hey, we have a beta in like 2 weeks, and then the game's gonna release 6 weeks after that." And I remember watching that showcase, and the reveal in the showcase, I think it was like 15 minutes long, but I remember asking myself, like, is this a single player game? Is because there was like cutscenes in it, and I was like,
very Guardians of the Galaxy-esque
Yeah.
cutscenes in it. Yeah.
and then it wasn't until after the showcase where they relieved like a vid doc on it, like a 30-minute vid doc that was like, oh yeah, this is a PvP shooter. I'm like, oh well, all my interest is completely gone. And then on top of that, they're charging $40 for it. In what world is anybody going to pay for a hero shooter nowadays?
Yeah, and there's so many entrenched players, both actual game players and like players as in like different games. Like there's some and companies. There's so many entrenched people of all sorts already in that space that are doing it for free. So you really have to stand out.
Like I'm playing Valorant, I'm playing Apex, I'm now adding Deadlock to my rotation. Like, where would I have time to fit this $40? Like, first I got to pay that $40, and that's already a huge barrier to entry for this modern era of gamers, right?
Totally.
And then like, I played the beta when it came out. It was fine. For me to pay $40 for an okay experience is like, no, this game was DOA. How Sony didn't see this is beyond me.
Well, it's sort of in a similar vein, and it reminds me a lot of like Bungie just did a bunch of layoffs, and that's it happens. A lot of the industry does a bunch of layoffs, but Sony bought Bungie, going, okay, we're going to use your expertise in game as service, live service games with Destiny to shape this huge game as service, live service strategy going forward for us. Like that's going to be our multi-platform play, is we're going to do all these live service games. And then a bunch of them apparently supposedly got canceled quietly. Obviously Concord didn't work out. And then Bungie, the experts they brought on to spearhead how to do live service games, was just recently basically like, yeah, we kind of miscalculated some stuff with Destiny and we're going to have to lay off like, what was it, a quarter or a third of their workforce or something. Like it's not looking good in that space. I don't think it's a Sony problem. I think it's a live service problem. Like I keep seeing these player pulse tracker data things from Matt Piscatella from the MPD, or now Circana, and it's always the same like 5 or 6 games that are most played. You're lucky if you dent that, but all of them are like free to play stuff, Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite, and then you have the second tier of sorts like the Apexes and the Valorants of the world. It is really hard to pull people away from those free experiences into what amounts to the same basic experience that's now premium. The games that do well seem to be ones that offer something totally different, which is why Nintendo's probably doing fine, which is why there's so much excitement for Astro Bot on PlayStation. Like they have to stand out. They can't be more of the same. And I think, to your point, it's probably very misguided on Sony, and not just Sony, but a lot of the industry's part, to just assume, oh, we can hop in the live service thing. We'll just do exactly what they're doing, and somehow we'll be successful too. Like, there's only some. I remember Reggie and Iwata used to always say, you're competing for people's time. You're not competing against other games. You're competing for people's time. And if people's time is in other games or in movies or in whatever, it's really hard to get a piece of that pie when the pie keeps overwhelmingly becoming 1 or 2 or 3 flavors only. Like if it's like a mixed berry pie and it's always strawberries and blueberries because that's Fortnite and Roblox, it's really hard to be like, I'm just gonna slip a dragon fruit in there and see if anyone wants it. You gotta like not do a fruit. You gotta do a different dessert entirely, and that's how I think Nintendo's doing okay and stuff like that. So that's a weird analogy, but it kind of worked, right? It's kind of off the cuff, but it kind of worked. But yeah, so I think that's a lot of where this is coming from. This issue they're now facing.
So, I mean, Sony still has 2 more live services games in the works. Their games,
they better be like racing games or something.
No, they look like shooters. Fair Games, which I don't know. There's based on that teaser trailer that they released. I think it was the same year that they shut off Concord, or they teased Concord. There was one called Fair Games, which, based on the teaser, it looks like that identity has already been stolen by the finals. That one,
which also is underperforming from what I've read.
yeah, like I was really into that game for maybe about 3 weeks, and then just hopped off and went back to Apex and
Yeah,
Valorant.
I thought the aesthetic of it was really cool. Like I really like kind of the vibe of it. But
yeah,
it was
it's
very
it is
samey
a
still.
very cool game for sure.
Yeah.
And then Marathon, which is being developed by Bungie, and that apparently that game is in really really rough shape right now. And on top of that, you do have your success stories like Helldivers 2, which is another Sony property that. Now that I think about it, all of these 3 games got announced in the same showcase, like two or 3 years ago.
What's crazy is I don't think they expected the strategy they did for if you actually step back, the strategy they did for Helldivers 2 in terms of marketing and strategy, to your point, they did for Concord and this other game, is identical. They just got really lucky with Helldivers word of mouth. Word of mouth carried that thing like no other. Like, the marketing wasn't much different in terms of scope, scale, or anything, really. It just hit right at the right time in the right way. And it's crazy that companies are like, yeah, we'll make this huge live service investment. It'll be like 4 years, 5 years of development. And maybe it'll just hit right in the right way and work. And if not, well, that's all that money down the toilet. Like, it's just such a weird, Suicide Squad game, another example. It wasn't really a true live service game, but you know what I mean? Like, another where they just kept pumping in more and more money and spent more and more time developing to lesser and lesser return. Oh, I guess it is, yeah.
That game is absolutely a live service game, for sure.
But yeah, like, it's I know I just said it twice, but I'll say it again. I think there's a reason Nintendo's killing it this generation, because they're not falling into these pitfalls of just, like, endless development to make a game that just keeps trying to get more and more money out of you, because people only do that with so many games. We'll only play so many of those games.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see if Sony comes back and tries to reboot this game as a free-to-play game. Who knows?
I feel like they're not. I feel like it's diminishing returns to keep the IP, but it's so much development work go into it. I wouldn't be surprised if it has like a new name and a new look and if it's like the skeleton of it, but they like shake it up in some way or they rebrand it in some way. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to see what they do, because it's a little unprecedented. Fastest shutdown of a game probably
Could
ever.
be the next Fortnite. I mean, that wasn't a battle royale initially.
That's true. And other games that have turned around are like, Cyberpunk went from being real bad at first till, I mean, granted, it didn't shut it down, but it had its issues and it turned around and is now a huge hit. No Man's Sky started really rocky and now it's hugely successful. You never know. That's the kind of other side of the coin.
The only difference is that those games never got shut down.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. This is like pulling the rug out from under it is definitely unprecedented. I mean, even Anthem, which was a prime example of this sort of
multiverses. I mean, I guess it had good reception initially, and a lot of people. Then, I mean, it didn't get shut down, but it got put on hiatus for a year while they tweaked it. And
wait, what game?
Now it feels like
multiverses,
which is back the opposite.
Now. Yeah.
It went from like everybody was playing it and being optimistic about it, and then it was pulled for a year so that they can, finish. But
they at least had the goodwill with that one and kind of already built a brand identity. Like Concord doesn't seem to like. I saw a number that like 25,000 people total bought it or something. Like, it doesn't have any attention. It doesn't have any. No one's like, oh man, I can't wait till Concord comes back. But multiverses are probably some folks are like, I'm really excited. And they had.
I mean, I was one of those
existing
people.
IP to hook into it because of all the
I'm still
Warner properties.
Keeping an eye on it.
Yeah,
Daffy Duck and Godzilla will be characters eventually, but yeah, there's the kind of a meme post that just had a side-by-side picture of the fact that Gollum, the game, had more players than Concord.
And Gollum was considered one of the worst games of 2023. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not even a multiplayer game, so
yeah,
that's a very sad comparison.
Yeah.
I feel real bad for the devs.
Yeah, no, seriously. I feel super bad for them. I mean, can you imagine?
That game does not look like. I mean, it looked like a lot of work went into it, but
yeah,
unfortunately.
And you gotta think, like, even if it didn't resonate with players, so much pride and effort and blood, sweat, and tears went into making this game. And I'm sure there are some business decisions that influenced the vision, yada yada. But a lot of it was probably their core idea and their core vision. And to have that be sort of like unceremoniously like ignored by the collective gaming world that's gotta be hard. I feel really bad for them.
There's my Twitter algorithm just literally I'm seeing a tweet Concord Platinum number 295. Jesus Christ. This free gunner has got the plan and really hope to see more people enjoy the game and curious to see what will happen going forward with seasons, variants, and new characters. That was at 7:47 a.m., only for him at 10 a.m. to be, well, this is going to be a very rare platinum trophy for me, along with the with the blog post. Like,
well,
damn, dude.
What's sad, dude. Last night I saw someone point out that they posted on the Discord for Concord last night, like, hey, we're going to go down for an hour for maintenance to prep for week 3 of activities. We're really excited for you to see everything. And then the next morning, I guess the word came down from up top. Well, there is no week 3. Like, that's like, as of last night, they were still prepping for new stuff. Like, it really sucks to have the rug pulled out like that, I imagine.
Something that
although, yeah, go ahead.
Something that the Kind of Funny guys did mention is this live service initiative from Sony definitely is a Jim Ryan initiative.
Oh yeah, I see.
And he's gone. So
I think they're gonna pivot. I really do.
Yeah, they have to.
Strengths. Yeah,
they absolutely have to.
It was a big to be fair to Jim Ryan, he took a big swing. It was a big swing. It just happened to be a miss. But, like, you know,
he's had a lot of those. I did not like Jim Ryan at all.
Occasionally has some oddly successful things. Like the PlayStation Portal is kind of like low key, under the radar, quite popular. So there's occasionally he sometimes stumbled into good things, but yeah, no, I think like PlayStation Strength is definitely like the more cinematic single player stuff. Astrobot had, like I was saying before, has a ton of buzz. Like there's definitely really strong stuff Sony can do. Completely pivoting into live services just because that's what the other guys are doing. Yeah, that was a gamble that did not pay off. Clearly.
Yeah.
I will say though, or go ahead.
No, go ahead, because I think what I want to say leads to a bigger conversation.
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna make the kind of funny observation. I don't know if you guys noticed. So Concord at 9 a.m. was announced as being shut down, and exactly at that same moment at 9 a.m., Nintendo also announced that the region of the new Mario and Luigi Brothership game is called Concordia. So literally at the moment Sony was saying goodbye to Concord, Nintendo was saying hello to Concord, which was kind of funny. Like, what are the odds that the names would be identical like that? Concordia versus Concord. There's only room for one, I guess. But yeah, I just thought like that was a weird coincidental timing. But anyway, what were you gonna say? That's actually a more serious point.
The worst part, aside from obviously the poor devs out there, is how, and I don't know how in tuned you are in, Jason, Angel, I highly doubt you are, with the whole culture war surrounding video games nowadays.
Oh, wait, which part of it? I like to think I'm pretty tuned into
the
stuff.
wokeification of video games.
Oh God, yeah.
How this is a win
all the
for
Assassin's
them.
Creed stuff. Yeah.
How they're going to see that this game failed because it's woke, and not because of its terrible business model, and just because the game wasn't very fun. You're going to blame it on
the female lead.
The female leads,
mm-hmm.
and the people of color in this game. Like, that is the worst part about all of this.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, I didn't even think about that being a point, but you're right, that's going to become a huge talking point is, hey, remember what happened at Concord? Or, the fact that Ubisoft had to put out a statement about, like, how they're doing the Assassin's Creed set in Japan and, like, valuing, like, the history of Japan, and they're doing a story that involves some other ethnicities and and there's a whole brouhaha with that. Like, there's a lot of, like, I wouldn't call them small wins for that crowd, but moments where they can be like, see, Ubisoft had to put a statement. Concord got canceled. Like, see? And it's just, it's... I mean, the one I thought was the most ridiculous, where they were complaining about the reason Star Wars Outlaws isn't doing as well as it could be. It's getting good reviews, but Ubisoft stock took like a tumble. It's like down 10% today or something as of this morning of this recording. Because I guess it's not performing as well as Ubisoft wanted. And I have seen people being like, well, yeah, because they're being so woke and they didn't make her breasts big enough. It's like, what? That's not going to sell a game or not. Like, what are you talking about? So yeah, there's definitely, it's the culture wars are the worst.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that was Gomi's microtransaction live service update corner thing.
Your in-app purchase power.
More like you had your own office.
To be fair, we kind of raided his office throughout.
Jason's, by comparison, it's like a little closet, but this one was actually interesting. I'm just kidding.
Whoa,
just
shots
kidding.
fired. Well, let me
I know
tell
there
you
are
about
there are
the
at least
current
two
stock
people
of
that I
Nintendo.
know that like your corner.
Yes, there are two people who have told me, of our 5 listeners that we established at the top of the show, we have 2 out of 5, 40% enjoy Jason's Sales Corner when I do it. So there you go. That's a
Wait.
statistic for you.
That's counting us, right?
Oh, you enjoy it? I assumed you didn't.
No,
So
like as our listeners.
Oh, the 5. Yeah, I guess so. I guess 3 out of 5 because I enjoy it, because I do it. So 60% of our listeners enjoy Jason's Sales Corner when I do it. 2/3.
Interesting. All right.
Well, onto a happier note. There was a Nintendo Direct double feature.
There was an Indie World Nintendo Direct twofer. I like to call it the semantic showcase, because we got like an Indie World that had real like Square Enix is publishing Power Wash Simulator, which in the Indie World had a Shrek DLC announcement. And then there's a Direct where there's arguably indie publishers like the people that are doing Star Overdrive, Dear Villagers. I think they're indie technically. They had like Goat Simulator, which started as an indie game, but now Deep Silver publishers, so I guess it goes in a Direct, which is where it was. But then there's also like an indie publisher like Digital Eclipse working with major IPs like Worms and Tetris. So they're an indie publisher in the Nintendo Direct because they're working with IPs that are technically major. And then you got Nintendo publishing a game in the third-party partner showcase of the Nintendo Direct with Fitness Boxing 3. So it's all like this hodgepodge weird blender mix and match of these two established showcases Nintendo does. Indie World, Nintendo Direct. I don't know if there's, besides having two brands, I don't know what the distinction is that much anymore. But yeah, we got 40 minutes of games. It was about a week ago. And real quick before we dive into the specifics or any games that we caught our eye, I know, Angel, you mentioned Pizza Tower at the very top of the show, but I will say that I think this kind of atypical 1-2 punch actually worked in Nintendo's favor here. Like each presentation had its, probably on its own would have been a little lighter, in fair, like it would have felt kind of light, but together it made what kind of felt like a pretty packed list of upcoming games. I mean, one that has a lot of remasters and ports. We got like the Castlevania DS games are back. My Sims is back. Capcom has another fighting collection with Power Stone in it. So it's all stuff like that exists before. But in all, it was like nearly 50 releases shown between the two showcases, and only I think 14 of them or so, I counted them out, are actually coming in 2025. Everything else, the rest of that list, is this year in the next 4 months alongside Nintendo's own first-party stuff. So it's actually like there's a lot of content in there, even if it wasn't the biggest of content. So that I was actually pleasantly surprised. I thought it'd be pretty light in raw total. And yeah, no, I was surprised with how much was there. Was there anything? I mean, I know, did you guys watch it actually? I was gonna say I know you did, but I don't know if you did.
I did. Eventually, but I did.
That's fair. Did you, Kevin?
I just I didn't watch it, but I saw
skimmed
a recap.
the highlights.
No, I saw a recap.
Yeah, okay.
That's typically
Okay,
what
that
I'll do with
works.
directs.
Yeah, that's fair. What did anything jump out to you guys from either of them?
The indie one was first, right?
Yeah, the first 20 was like an opening act of indie games. And then the second half,
I
which I
mean,
get
yeah.
because a lot of people tune into the direct, so you do indies to give them a bigger audience. I get that, yeah.
From kind of a neutral point of view, the indie one was fine. Like, as far as stuff particularly for me, like literally just Pizza Tower. So it wasn't until the end that I was like, oh, that's something I want to play.
Right. Literally the very minute. I feel kind of bad for Anton Blast, which was previously announced in Indie World and is coming to Switch, I think, later this year. But that was like, well, we don't have Pizza Tower, but we have Anton Blast. But now we have Pizza Tower before we even get Anton Blast.
Now we have Pizza Tower and Anton Blast.
Right. But they're cut from a similar cloth for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so otherwise, yeah, the other one, I mean, I do like that we're now getting Power Stone 1 and 2. That was actually pretty cool.
Finally freed from the Dreamcast and PSP?
Yeah. I think that's it for the second one. No, there was another port, I think.
Was it
out on it.
Castlevania?
No, that was cool.
Was it Yakuza?
I may or may not get it. I mean, I did play Portrait of Ruin and most of Dawn of Sorrow, so yeah, it's like one of those, if I see it, at a discount or something, or Black Friday, I'll probably pick it up. But yeah, I think Power Stone was probably the bigger one. Unless I'm probably forgetting something else, but
I know what you're forgetting. My Sims Cozy Bundle.
And for a second, I thought you were serious.
I mean, I have a list of the games. If you want me to actually try and guess, I will play this game with you.
Wow.
Angel, was it the other Marvel vs. Capcom collection?
I mean, that was announced in the previous one, so
I know
don't
it
even
was.
count that.
Was it one
Was
of
it
two
announced?
Five Nights at Fred? Oh, was it
No,
Tales
this-
of
this-
Grace's F
Hold on.
remastered?
This one,
Yeah, the Marvel vs. Capcom one was announced in a previous partner showcase. The release date was only announced.
Yeah,
on
they
this one.
opened up pre-orders with this direct, but it was announced back in the June one. He's right. Yeah.
This is the second fighting game collection being released.
Yeah,
Capcom's doing two back to back. Yeah.
they're kind of going crazy with the fighting game collections, which I hope. I mean, it feels like it might be too fast, but at the very least, hopefully this means they're listening, and they could give us a new Darkstalkers or even a new Power Stone would be interesting. I'd love to see that game modernized in some way.
On Switch specifically, there's some thought that has crossed my mind that, like, if they're rushing these all out now, what will they port to the Switch 2 if the Switch 2 is backwards compatible with the Switch and they put all their fighting games on the Switch? Like, a big part of Capcom's strategy is they have, something like Monster Hunter World or whatever, Resident Evil, and then they have, like, a ton of, like, retro collections. And they keep re-releasing a lot of these retro collections. Granted, they're dipping into some new wells here with the, getting the Marvel license back and doing Power Stone, but, like, how many times have they re-released a Mega Man collection? Right, GameCube, Wii, WiiWare, like, etc., 3DS. But if the Switch 2 is backwards compatible, and if they're pumping out these games in 2025, the year Switch will become Switch 2, are they sort of like squashing future sales for themselves, or are they hoping just not a lot of people are going to bother putting the cartridge in their Switch 2? Like, it just seems, I don't know, the timing's interesting to me. Like, I don't know. I don't really have a fully developed thought there. I just thought that was kind of an interesting timing-wise for them. But
Yeah, that is interesting, actually.
I think the game you're thinking of, though, is Tales of Grace's F Remastered. I don't know what the F stands for.
That was one, but I guess just for, I don't know, weird reasons. I don't even know why. I'm only saying weird because I can't think of a word. It was like, oh, this is cool that this is coming to Switch.
Wobbly
But-
Life.
That must be
But
it.
I mean, I played it on PS3.
Wobbly
so-
Life?
And it looks like, no, Tales of Grace. Like, I love that. Like, I might get it simply because if I ever feel like playing it again, I'd want to have it on the Switch and not have to plug in a PS3. But we did beat it like maybe 2-3 years ago, which in RPG timelines, that feels pretty recent. So, yeah.
But see, if you buy it now, then when you play it in 10 years, when you finally get to it, it will feel fresh again.
Hey, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin, what about you? Anything from your recap that you watched that jumped out to you?
Nothing that jumped out to me necessarily. One game did look really cool, Star Overdrive.
Mm-hmm.
But that is not a game that I will be playing on my Switch.
Fair. Yeah, I think a lot of it was multi-platform.
It was cool watching Peglin. I've been playing Peglin for a bit now. It's been on early access on Steam forever already. That game's really fun.
It's basically a roguelike Peggle, right? If I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's literally just Peggle.
Yeah.
But that game could get really hard and like mechanically really deep too. So.
By the way, why is Peggle not a thing anymore? Like, what's EA
I don't
doing?
know.
Like,
I had this thought about every Xbox 360 came with a copy of Hexic HD.
yeah.
You cannot play Hexic HD anywhere except Microsoft platforms.
Huh. It's kind of like how Geometry Wars was such a big thing and then just kind of upped and vanished. They did a Wii one at one point, and then that was it. The franchise just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are a lot of those like Xbox 360 marketplace era games that just like, where'd they go? Why'd they go?
They're what's so weird about Hexic specifically? It's a Microsoft made game.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like the fact that they haven't ported it to anything else is insane.
Yeah, that's weird. Or even put it on like Game Pass or something. That's super weird. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's strange.
There's a lot of dormant IPs that are kind of like one of the things I really noticed with this presentation is that like, I mean, obviously the Switch is playing catch up with a lot of stuff. It's kind of like, it's not so much, oh, you're gonna play the Switch for the latest and greatest games. It's more like have the entire library of every game you ever cared about in one place. You know, like them closing with Yakuza, even though it was Kiwami, which I think is like what, a 13-year-old game or so. It was on PS3 originally, right? Like the fact that like, look at this, like the big finale is an old Yakuza port, but in principle, like the Switch is just having all these old games. So it made me start thinking about like, what don't we like? Why did EA? I was saying about Peggle, but why did they wait so many years for My Sims and then call it the Cozy Bundle? Like Animal Crossing was sitting right there, blowing up in 2020. Why would you? Not that's going to necessarily hurt the sales of My Sims, but I feel like 2021, 2022, those would have been some prime My Sims times to pump that out on Switch. Like it just, I don't know. Like there's some games that I'm looking at this list and I'm just like, how did you decide now is the time to do this? How is Power Stone in 2025 the year that it comes to other consoles? Like it's just so haphazard feeling in a way. But it's great it's happening in all these cases. I heard My Sims is actually really fun. It's kind of like a half Animal Crossing, half Sims experience. But yeah, it just struck me as kind of weird how these companies go about deciding what IPs to revive. Although for me personally, there's two games that caught my eye. One is more in principle and one is in actual what it is. So I'm very intrigued by the Castlevania Dominus collection. Not because I necessarily am a diehard Castlevania DS era player, although I have, I think, Portrait of Ruin and it's fun. But this is one of the few games where it's a DS port that they're bringing to the Switch that was a game that heavily used two screens and they retrofitted to only need one screen. Now, obviously, touch-heavy games won't work as well, but a map on the lower screen, things like that, like they found a kind of clever solution where the left hand of the screen is what you're playing, and then the right hand screen, they put what was the DS's lower screen and then what was the pause menu and just have those constantly visible and kind of split the real estate up. And I feel like, especially if we're in the era of like the GameCube era and the Dreamcast era and PS2 and early PS3 getting ports now, when Switch 2 rolls around, there's going to be so much more of like, well, what if we port the 3DS era, the DS era, the Wii era more than it already is? So I feel like Castlevania is kind of setting a precedent of how you can do DS games that aren't fully touch heavy in an easy port. And that, of course, opens a whole can of worms, a whole Pandora's box of, okay, well, what other DS games, what other 3DS games could they port? What can they retrofit? What, can they do? I know Kid Icarus Uprising is something that people have wanted. Like, can they map that stylus control to the right stick and then boom, actually make a Kid Icarus Uprising re-release on Switch or Switch 2? Like, it's just the gears in my mind started turning when I saw the Castlevania port. So I thought that was kind of interesting that that's happening. But the one from these presentations I'm most excited about is Tetris Forever. I mean, maybe it's not a big surprise. Tetris 99 is like my most played game. But Tetris Forever, it's digital eclipse. They're doing their Gold Master series. That's like half museum exhibit, half game. Where have you guys seen like Atari 50 or the other one they did, where basically it's like they put in a whole bunch of ROMs and then a whole bunch of context around it. They have like documentaries, they have like archival things you can look at and play, and like prototypes and all this other stuff. It's really cool. I was just waiting for a game that I cared about more to dive into, and they're teaming up with the Tetris company to do a Tetris one. So it's going to be 15 different Tetris games from like the earlier years of Tetris. There's like a 90-minute, 120-minute documentary with Hank Rogers and Alexei Pajitnov, the creator, who is the creator of Tetris and the guy that brought it to America. There's like different digital things you can look at. There's the interactive timeline. There's a mode where like it switches between the 15 different Tetrises on the fly as you're playing, which is also multiplayer mode. Like, it just seems like the perfect, like, if you're a big Tetris person, it's like a museum exhibit you have inside your Switch. And you get to try all these different Tetrises, including the Hatris spin-offs where there's hats instead of blocks. It's just, it looked, in Battle Gaiden, which is one that I've heard good things about, it just seemed like a really cool, like, I love industry stuff. I love, like, the Inside Baseball and getting that combined with an actual release about a game I actually really, really like. Like, I'm really excited for Tetris Forever. So looking forward to that. And also just because I want to shout out Shout out to Date Everything. Did you guys see this game in the indie showcase?
Absolutely not. Shout out to Date Everything.
The concept is so ridiculous. There's a game that was shown.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna play it, I don't think. But there's a game that was shown back during not E3, whatever you want to call that June period. I forget which showcase, but it was called like Build a Relationship or Building Relationships. And it was like you're on this small island, you're a house, and you're rolling around in this like 3D N64 looking space. And you're trying to like woo and get into relationships with other buildings on the island. It's as ridiculous as it sounds. But this game is sort of a similar, like, let's make this weird riff on dating sims where you are any inanimate object in your house can become a person and you can date them. And just like the absurdity of it, I'm on board with, even though I probably won't necessarily play it. And Building Relationships isn't coming to Switch, but should be. But at least Date Everything is coming to Switch. So just wanted to shout that one out. But yeah, I think it was a pretty solid showcase overall. It just did not. It's so many ports and stuff. There's nothing to really be like, oh, did you see this or what did you think of that? It's just kind of like, yeah, when they hit, if you like those games, here's a new way to play them. One to keep an eye out for Europa. It was in the sizzle reel of Indie World. This was a demo I talked about in like April or May maybe, but it's this very chill. It's kind of like Journey meets Breath of the Wild, sort of like floaty 3D platformer, kind of watercolory looking game. I liked the demo when it first came out. It's definitely kind of a lighter fare, like not the most in-depth thing, but it looks like it has a good story. And yeah, I saw it pop up again. I was like, oh, cool. They're still giving it some attention. So hopefully that turns out to be a good game when it eventually hits. But yeah, that's all I really had for the showcases myself.
Not related at all to it, but out of curiosity, is Power World still a big thing? I haven't.
They are doing a big DLC, like new island thing sometime this fall. But I think its player numbers have gone down a little, but it's still, I mean, they since it blew up, what I know is they signed a merchandising deal and they have the DLC coming. And the DLC is kind of their version of what Nintendo did for Scarlet and Violet. So, and it'll have new pals and stuff. So, yeah, there's still something there, but I don't know if it's like the whirlwind of what it was a few months ago. Unless you know otherwise, Kevin.
I'm trying to see if I can Steam charts.
Like the concurrent player count or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On Steam, 15,000 playing 11 minutes ago. So not terrible. But not the 2 million all-time peak that it was at.
I mean, that definitely felt like a meme game in a similar way to like Date Everything, you know, Date Everything's not going to be Power World numbers, but I mean, kind of a similar, like, here's a funny concept, let's try and build a game around it, and it will be funny and become a thing for a flash in the pan moment because everyone's like, oh, that's funny, and then people will move on. That's my guess, at least.
Yeah, and on that note, I think that is going to wrap this episode unless either you two fine gentlemen have something to add.
Oh, I had one thing I wanted to talk about, but I guess I could save it till I have the full game. I've been playing Emio, the Smiling Man. Should I save it? I'm only halfway through the story, but I can talk about the structure a bit.
Sure.
Okay.
If you must.
I will then. I might as well. I jotted down a few thoughts, so yeah, I'll try and not go too in depth here. But I'll be honest, I didn't expect to be talking about Emio the Smiling Man myself. I thought Nintendo had some like cool, unique marketing for it, but I didn't. I thought that's where it would stop. Is I go, oh, that's some cool, unique marketing. Except then Nintendo did some more cool, unique marketing, and they released a demo for the game that actually got me hooked. What they did is instead of just a standard demo, like 10 days ago or whatever when they released it, they did it episodically. So every few days, each of the demo's 3 chapters would release, leading into, in that same cadence, the final release of the game on last Thursday. And they treat it like episodes of a TV show. And honestly, that's probably the best way to compare Emio to like other visual novel type games like Ace Attorney or whatever. This isn't as much, from what I've experienced so far, this isn't as much of a detective game where you're doing some gameplay. Oh, that's weird wording. Doing some gameplay. Well, anyway, my point is, it's not like there's all these sorts of like different interactive mystery elements or big plot points hinging on whether you have the right clue from the right place at the right time and solving a puzzle in the right way. Like it's more and this is probably true for the past Famicom Detective Club games, though I haven't played those. It's more like you're along for the ride of the story. So there's still interactive stuff, don't get me wrong. Every place you go, you have a menu. You can choose from different options, like asking questions of people or calling someone on the phone or contextually taking things or kind of like loosely examining or looking at the environment, things in front of you. But that's kind of it. You're not doing much like actual detective work yourself. You're not trying to like dupe people into saying anything. At most, I'd say the menu system just has you kind of ping-ponging between these various options to drive the plot forward on its own. You'll also use this kind of self-reflective think option that kind of serves as almost a mini hint system should you not know which menu option to choose next. So that's kind of the structure of it. And admittedly, the fact everything does fall into just a handful of single menu options does make the think system actually pretty useful, because gameplay-wise, my one nagging issue so far is that sometimes it's not clear what you need to select next from the menu. For example, you could choose ask and have a number of different topics to ask a person you're talking to. And they could start repeating the same answers at some point. And you're just like, okay, I guess I'm done with this. On to the next menu. But then there is no next menu. What do you do? Like, you maybe examine them with the examine option. That might prompt a new reaction. And then you can get new questions to ask them. But sometimes you just need to hit think. And the game kind of gently nudges you with like orange highlighted text with what sort of thing you need to do next, or it will make you have some sort of epiphany and then you can go back to ask and ask again with new questions now formed. So there's kind of that interplay between the menu options that's a little weird at times because you're not quite sure what to do. And sometimes like the various menu options, you just kind of need to jump around. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not. But there's definitely just like I don't know, like an opaqueness I noticed that makes it a little more difficult than necessary to progress the story because you sort of get stuck in these loops. And there are also times that you just need to sometimes hit the same menu option repeatedly, which even if you think you're done with a prompt and then there's suddenly more dialogue, it's just like, why not just make that one continuous dialogue? Why break it up and make me press it again? I don't know. But fortunately, those little nitpicks aside, there's still enough going on with the rest of the game that I've been enjoying the like halfway point I'm at right now. I think there's 12 chapters total. I'm about halfway. It's not like a true mystery, but so far the story does keep going at a good pace, like almost on rails to a degree. Like it's a mystery that you're reading about, but it's not a mystery you yourself are directly solving, if that makes sense. Like it's kind of like you're watching a crime solving TV show opposed to like solving a crime. So that might, that's less critical thinking involved as you're playing. You kind of just roll with it. I'm totally cool with that. I don't know if that'll turn off some people, but I really like that. And in the half I played so far,
that does kind of sound a little bit like a turn off. I mean, it still sounds fun. I think I'll still jump into the series, but I'm sure you know where
visual
I'm going. Like,
novel, less game.
Yeah, because since I'm coming from, like Ace Attorney, which sounds very comparable. It almost sounds like you would start with this series, and if you want something a little deeper, then you go to Ace Attorney because you pretty much have everything you just described on top of the layer where you also have the option to like literally, cool, I have dialogue trees. I could talk to this person. I could literally just chat with them, and they give me what to ask them about. But I can also literally show them every single item in my inventory to see what gets them to talk, which could lead to separate dialogue trees. And then, you have the whole courtroom cases as well. You have literal brain teasers to solve sometimes, and codes to deduct, and ciphers and blah, blah.
There's not like ciphers, there's not codes. There's at least not yet. Granted, I'm only halfway through, but it is definitely like the most puzzle you have to do is, okay, which menu option am I choosing now?
It suddenly super crazy complicated in the last like
it could. But I mean, the thing is, the half of the game I played so far, like, there's already like intriguing characters. There's some interesting threads I'm picking up on. The premise, for those who aren't familiar with Emio, is basically a schoolboy has been murdered. There's a bag on his head with a smile drawn on it, and it's a weirdly similar murder calling card to 18 years prior, where there's a serial killer who would draw smiley faces on the bags of the girls he would kill. Girls would be crying, and he'd kill them, and then put the bag on their face so they're happy after they die because of the smile. In the game, you learn that calling card of the bag on the head was never publicly disclosed, but there is an urban legend of a guy named Emio, which, so what's this guy about? Is he a copycat? Is it the serial killer from 18 years ago? And it's like, how do those intertwine? And there's like also a backstory involving one of the police officers investigating it. And like, her family has its own mysteries that were taking place at the same time as these murders, and what's going on with that. So it's there's definitely a lot of like interesting plot threads happening there, keep me engaged, and there's actually a lot of them. So one nice thing it does, the closer it gets to like an Ace Attorney thing, at the end of every chapter they do a review. And they have you answer essentially trivia questions about what you've been doing. So sometimes it's like multi-choice.
Were you paying attention?
Yeah, kind of. But there's so many different.
Clicking through.
There's so many different things, and the game is very heavily Japanese. Like all the voice acting stays in Japanese. All the names are Japanese. It's still called Famicom Detective Club, not NES Detective Club. So like it's helpful. It has it because it kind of lets you review things. But some are multi-choice. Some are like you type in a word for something. Some are identifying a person by going through your notes. You do have notes you can check. So I actually appreciated that because it did help me kind of keep the plot straight. But besides that, yeah, it's not like you're in a courtroom and like the entire progress of the game hinges on if you can catch someone in a lie or like do some sort of logic puzzle or something. Like the reviews are the closest it comes to like show-stopping moments, because if you get it wrong, they're just like, oh, well, try again, which is nowhere near the same. So yeah, I feel like I'll need to circle back later with like actual fuller impressions once I complete the story of Emio, which I will do. I mean, I know you guys are probably like, oh, he doesn't beat his games, but the 2-hour time sink of that 3-chapter demo convinced me to buy the game so I could figure out what's going on with the whole story. So I'm obviously going to complete it at this point, especially because it is kind of more passive. But in the interim, and part of the reason I wanted to bring it up now specifically is it is a fun experience. Like I am digging the presentation of it. The art style is like it's kind of this cool watercolory effect, 2D hand drawn, but then the characters are actually 3D, which I didn't expect. They start moving. I'm like, oh, they're 3D. But the music's cool. The atmosphere it creates is great. Like the overall atmosphere. But it's getting harder to find. Like I had trouble picking this up on launch weekend. Best Buy completely sold out. Online was completely sold out for GameStop. I found a Target that had 4 copies. So the reason I was like, oh, I want to talk about this episode, even though I haven't finished the plot, is even though I have nitpicks with the menus, even though, there's an odd thing, like I've been playing it in handheld mode, so I've been curled up on the couch with my Switch, and nothing is touchscreen friendly. Like you would think, oh, if you're examining the environment, you just touch where you want to look. If you want to hit a menu, just touch it. Nope, gotta use the stick. But even with all that aside, the game is already, if you're trying to get a physical copy, hard to come by. So I wanted to sort of shout out, it exists, I'm enjoying it, it's a fun experience, it's a more passive experience. For anyone who's interested in that, try and buy it now, because by the time I say, well, I think of the full plot in like 2 weeks, if you're somehow hinging your entire decision on me here now, the game might not, you might have to go digital if you want to go physical. So yeah, that's what I'd bring up now, but I am enjoying it. It'll probably be one of the rare games I actually play all the way through. So we'll see what I think of it. Hopefully next episode I'll have it done. And
I didn't even know it
fuller
had a
impressions.
release. Did I go for the other 2 as well?
I don't recall. I think it might have had a limited physical run, yeah. But I remember like Another Code had real limited physical run. Like there's been a lot of these small releases Nintendo's done where they just don't pump out a lot of copies. So it's like, oh, I gotta talk about this episode to make sure if people want a physical copy and they're somehow weighing the entire decision on my words right now, that they can get it. So while they still can. But anyway, now, Kevin, I think there's nothing else now that I've rambled about Emio. But yeah, I'm very pleasantly surprised by the game. So
nice. Well, and let me throw it back to you since you're doing the housekeeping.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Hi again, everybody. You can find us on the internet. We are on all the podcasting apps. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon Music, we're on Pandora, we're on iHeartRadio, we're on YouTube at Random Nintendo. We are on Twitter at Random Nintendo. We are individually on Twitter. I am JSR7. Kevin is KVN Gomi. Angel's actually over on Instagram under World of Weros. Rapid fire housekeeping now complete.
Cool. And what else do I do?
Usually you throw it to someone for a final word.
Do I throw it back?
You can throw it to yourself if you're feeling adventurous.
I will throw it to Angel.
Oh.
I will throw it to Angel.
Angel, Angel, that's where you say something. That's the moment.
I squandered this toss.